Hi, I'm Caribbean Andy. In today's video, we're going to talk about stocking up your home bar with the essentials without blowing your budget. Okay, so this is the second episode in a 4-part series, maybe more parts than 4. But if you haven't watched the first episode, it was all about essential bar tools. And what are you doing? Go back and watch it. Or after this. Or never. Doesn't matter. Today I wanted to do a video going over what spirits I would buy if I was just setting up my home bar. This is a really great video for somebody who maybe you've never had a cocktail before. Maybe you're just learning about them. Maybe tomorrow is your 21st birthday and you're about to have your first sip of alcohol, so you want to stock up your home bar. Whatever the reason, this is definitely geared towards a beginner's perspective, but hopefully I have things to share that can benefit anyone. So I would say if you are starting with the bare minimum $50 budget, you want to start a home bar, that's it. There you go, $50, you're pretty set. So this is again making the assumption that you have sugar, you have lemon, maybe you have lime. We're just talking about the booze part. So I have Beefeater here. This is a London dry gin, super classic. And liquor prices are different everywhere. Particularly where I live, it's all alcohol is sold by the state and they just make up the prices. So it's going to be a little bit different. But this is about $22 here. And this Old Grandad bourbon is about $18. So together these are $40. And you can get a bottle of Angostura bitters for under $20. So with this in mind, you can make an old fashioned. The grandfather, the godfather, the Mac Daddy of all cocktails. I'm gonna edit all of that out. That was an embarrassing run of nicknames. And then gin. Gin is the basis for so many classic cocktails. And I'm sure some of you watching are thinking, well, I don't like bourbon. I don't like gin. Well, do you know what I don't like? Your attitude. So the idea here is that we're talking about cocktails. A cocktail is not one ingredient. It's the sum of its parts. And even taking bourbon, for example, the flavor profile and tasting characteristics of an old fashioned is so different from something like a paper plane that's so fruity. My gosh, there's such a spectrum. So if you're somebody who's tried a Tom Collins before and you think it tastes gross because it tastes like gin, I gotta tell you, what you had is a poorly made Tom Collins. It shouldn't taste like gin. It should taste like a Tom Collins. A margarita doesn't taste like lime juice as much as penicillin doesn't just taste like honey. All of these things are supposed to come together in balance, and I hope that through this video and the journey that lies ahead of you, you'll be able to understand that balance and how these flavors can all come together better as well. So yeah, just with these 3 little bottles right here for under $50, you can prepare a Tom Collins. Say you want to make French 75s, you can just run out and grab a bottle of sparkling wine, but you've got the essentials right here at home. From there, maybe say you're going to spend $25 a week, maybe $25 a month. Every month you're going to buy another bottle of alcohol. The next couple of things that I would get in addition to these 3 bottles, I would go for sweet vermouth. And this is Dolan sweet vermouth. It's still pretty affordable, under $20 for a bottle, but Martini Rossi is a budget example, and their sweet vermouth is great. It's going to make a fine Manhattan, fine Negroni, fine Boulevardier. And I also recommend, vermouth does have a shelf life to it. If you keep it in the fridge and sealed, it's going to last a while, but still, you can buy a half bottle, so 375 milliliter, and that'll just be a couple dollars for Martini and Rossi. So I'd recommend just doing that if you're new to home bartending. If you're new to outside of the home bartending as well. Then from there, a really popular cocktail among bartenders and cocktail enthusiasts is, of course, the Negroni. And I think one of the things that makes the Negroni so popular is that it is a really great example of bringing together that balance of different flavors. You have your bitter in the Campari, you have your other parts. And I think it's also, therefore, a really easy cocktail to riff on, and then also really good for you to understand how to bring balance to a cocktail from that. So I would recommend getting yourself a red bitter liqueur. Now, I also know that Campari is pretty intense in terms of its flavor profile. And if this is all you have, the only thing you're really going to use this Campari for is to make Boulevardiers and Negronis. So I would actually say pick up a bottle of Aperol, which is a little bit cheaper, and a little bit friendlier to more palates. Aperol is a bitter liqueur, does have some of the same sort of tasting notes as Campari, but is much, much sweeter, and I think really enjoyable for many palates. There's no reason that you can't just do Aperol and some flavored sparkling water. This is grapefruit. If you're like me, you know, us millennials love our flavored sparkling waters, and I always have some around the house. Aperol is going to mix nicely with most flavors. Stir it up. We can even throw some bitters in here. And heck, an orange slice just for fun. This is a really simple beverage you can have at home. Really nice low ABV sipper, and guess what? You can throw some gin in here as well. Super refreshing, super easy. Nice to just have these things around the house for that reason. Now, I would say if you want to get a little bit fancier with this selection, you might want to branch out in your bitters. Old fashions, a lot of people like to make them with a mix of Angostura and orange bitters, so you can spend a little bit more money and pick up some of those. Reagan's orange bitters are sort of the industry standard. So Angostura and Fee Brothers both make orange bitters that are pretty easy to find. And then Peychaud's would be the other kind of bitters I would say if you're just starting out. These are the quintessential ingredient in the Sazerac cocktail, but also can be used in a number of other things. Have a little bit more of like a fruity cherry bitter kind of flavor. Not too dissimilar from something like Aperol or Campari. Okay, well that's a lot of talking. From there, well, this is all the other stuff I would buy. I do have a bottle of vodka sitting here because it's worth noting that, you know, just because you're becoming a cocktail enthusiast doesn't mean all of your friends are going to be. So you're gonna have that one friend, Sandy, who's gonna come over and say, I only drink vodka. Well, guess what, Sandy? You can have a vodka and grapefruit soda. A good vodka is really, it's not supposed to taste like anything but alcohol. So when we talk about classic cocktails, there aren't any with vodka because it didn't really come into fashion until the 1970s. But also vodka's not really bringing anything to the table other than its alcohol content. So it's essentially just adding proof to a cocktail. It's not playing a role in that balance. So in my opinion, it's okay if you like vodka, if that's what you want to drink. But the best cocktail to have with vodka is a vodka soda. And that's okay. So yeah, I have Soli around the house. I do use this for cocktails sometimes. This is, again, pretty moderately priced. You don't need to do anything crazy. Grey Goose has that messy foil on it. I've cut myself on that before. It still is $20 or something. Just get that. It's great. So from there, you know what? Campari, we have all this. We're at the point we're going to upgrade. We're going to get ourselves a bottle of Campari. We're now at around $150 if this is all we're spending on our budget, and things are starting to really come together, really expanding what we can do in terms of cocktails. You know, if you're getting to that point where you're ready to spend about $200 on your home bar, I would go for a rum and a tequila. Now, this is Appleton. A white rum might be more friendly to just use in a basic daiquiri, but you can start getting into some simple tiki drinks like a Jungle Bird and use Appleton and make a great little drink. This is a really versatile rum, so I would recommend picking up a bottle of this. Again, it's probably going to come in under $25, so strongly recommend that. And then tequila, you want to be able to make margaritas. I have, for my example, a bottle of Mezcal sitting out instead. Any cocktail that calls for tequila, you can use mezcal instead. You're going to add in a little bit of smoky flavor, obviously, but the agave profile is going to be pretty similar at its core. And I think people are excited by mezcal now. You know, it's not as weird and unfamiliar to people. So I think this is really fun. And a mezcal margarita is a really fun thing. If you have a couple of friends over, just whip that up with some lime juice. And you can use agave nectar or Cointreau, whatever, and whip up a really simple cocktail. And that being said, let's talk about... I have one more bottle awkwardly sitting here. And then lastly, I do have a bottle of dry vermouth sitting here, which, again, same idea. You know, you can swap in your dry vermouth for your sweet vermouth and see how that plays in a Negroni. I do... unlike with sweet vermouth, I recommend spending a little bit more money. A lot of the bargain dry vermouths are not as good. In fact, I'd just say they're bad. So I would recommend doing like a Dolan dry for choosing your dry vermouth. And again, if you can find a smaller bottle, I'd recommend that as well. And then let's go ahead and do a little example of how we can riff on a Negroni. So we'll do our standard recipe, equal parts of sweet vermouth. Let's say, you know what, you decided, I don't want to spend the money for Campari. I'm just going to keep Aperol around the house. So that's what we're going to use in our Negroni riff today. 1 ounce of Aperol. Here's where we can get really crazy. So we've got our whole bar set up. We didn't buy any Campari, so we can just tuck that away on the floor. But we do have some mezcal. What's it gonna be like if we use mezcal in place of our gin? Pretty delicious, I bet. Great. And you'll notice I was able to make this drink without any bar tools at all, other than my jigger and my spoon. Oh, this is a terrible glass for stirring. It's real loud. But if your glasses aren't ribbed, they're great. You can build a Negroni right in the glass just like that, or an old fashioned. We're gonna do a little orange peel here. And there you have it. We've just made a beginner level original cocktail recipe. Well, that's a little treat. I gotta say, the sweetness of the Aperol is really, it's muted by the bite from the mezcal. And conversely, you don't really get as much of the smoke from the mezcal because the Aperol and vermouth are so sweet. If I was gonna change one thing, I'd maybe throw some of our bitters in here. Do that. Give that one little stir. So obnoxious. And cheers. So yeah, a lot of really simple, straightforward cocktails you can make with just these simple ingredients. Everything's sitting in front of me here, under 200 bucks, or right around there. Add in your simple syrup, and you have a pretty well-stocked bar. And there's a lot you can do to do some learning on your own. A lot of great resources on the internet, particularly here on YouTube. A lot of great cocktail channels. Thank you so much for taking some time to watch this one. Hit the like button if you enjoyed what you saw today. And be sure to come back next Wednesday for the next part of this series. Subscribe if that's a thing that interests you. And have a great rest of your day. I'm going to drink these now. Cheers.